So the order came to the June Tynwald around the rates of minimum wage, both for the standard minimum wage age, which is 18 and over, and also for the youth rate. And a debate ensued, as it had done in fact the previous year, where there was a definite feeling within the court that in fact the 16 to 17 age bracket was potentially not necessary. Having gone away and looked into what's happened in other jurisdictions, I felt that actually that was something that we should have a debate around. I think it's something that for me is arbitrary. I said that within the debate, and I feel that we can do better by looking at that through development, the development rate, rather than through just 16 and 17-year-olds.
What impact do you think this would have on local businesses?
So the evidence that I've been advised from Department for Enterprise is that in fact there's a very low number of people who are on the minimum wage rate across all the brackets. In fact, they don't have the exact numbers within 16 and 17-year-olds from what I can ascertain thus far. But certainly that's part of the piece of work that I envisage happening. And I certainly wouldn't see this as a sudden big bang. I think that there's an opportunity to phased implement this over a number of years, in line with changes to the development rate as well. In Jersey, as an example, they have a trainee rate, and actually that allows for year one trainee rate, a year two trainee rate, and then you go on to the minimum wage rate as a standard. But you obviously, the employer has to be able to demonstrate that they are training you. You can't just say, well, pay the trainee rate just to get a lower rate, but there has to be an element of training. There has to be clear objectives. And I think that's far more important than simply saying, well, at 16, we'll pay you less purely based on your age. I think it's very much about your skills and your experience. But equally, I've heard the argument around maturity, but I could definitely find people who are very mature at the age of 15, 16, and people who really are not mature at the age of 24, 25. So I'm not sure that saying, well, actually under 18, you're definitely less mature is I don't think it's that simple.
Currently for the 16 and 17-year-olds, it's, from October it will be £6.15 an hour, £8.25 for the over 18s. That seems quite a big gap as well. Do you think that's too wide a gap?
Yeah, and I think that probably is what makes it such a stark contrast, is that differential. And in fact, I said when I spoke in Tynwald, I think it's about £2,500 a year that works out if you're on a 37.5-hour week. It's a significant amount of money. And then when you put that in context with the fact that 16 and 17-year-olds also can't go onto a housing waiting list without a guarantor, they are not covered by some of the services provided by charities such as GRI because of the interactions in terms of what they're providing as a service. In fact, they sort of fall through the net in some respects. We're allowing them to be paid less purely by virtue of their age, and yet we're not providing some of the backup and safeguard that we do for those people who are over 18, who actually are allowed on a base rate on minimum wage to earn a considerably larger amount.
Now, you would want a report back on this for January next year. The Minimum Wage Committee, I think they do review every year. You've said that this wouldn't necessarily be something to come in straight away, but would you like to see change coming in as soon as possible?
I'd like Tynwald to support the principle. This is absolutely the right thing. But equally, I don't want to negatively impact businesses. I think there has to be a balance. I think that, for me, this is the right direction. And I think that we should be moving to a 16-plus age rate. That's the over compulsory school leaving age, which is what we base this around. However, I do recognise there's a potential impact. That's why I think there's a key piece of work around them coming and reporting back on how that could be worked up and how that can be implemented. And for me, a phased implementation would be the most appropriate and sensible way to do that, to mitigate against any potential challenge for businesses who are affected by this.